Welcome to the I Hate Critics Movie Review Podcast. I am professional film critic Sean Patrick. Jeff, how are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
Doing good. Where can people get your art?
JeffLassiter.com is my website, and it's got links to all my Etsy, my Blue Sky, all that stuff.
Excellent. And I'm on Blue Sky as well under the I Hate Critics handle, as well as, of course, at Podcast Sean on Twitter. And, of course, we're on Facebook as well, where you can just search I Hate Critics. And, of course, this show wherever you listen to podcasts, including on our YouTube channel. Let's see. Anything interesting in the movie world that you've come across the last couple of days?
Well, we had the Academy Award nominations.
Oh, did that happen? I completely forgot.
And some horror snuck in there.
I'm sorry?
Some horror movies snuck in there, which was good.
Yeah, but I felt immediately just annoyed by I think the biggest snub obviously is Margaret Qualley. Just the idea that it just pretty much the Academy saying, yeah, we like the substance. It's not going to win though, because there's no possible way. Like the only way the substance was going all the way was if she got not only nominated, she was going to win, Demi was going to win, and then maybe it had a shot. But without a nomination, it's guaranteed. Like you're just happy to be here.
Well, I think Demi Moore is going to win. I think it's a career performance.
Oh no,
I don't
the dreaded Gold Watch Oscar.
No. I mean, it's like the cap of her career. Mm-hmm. This movie. I don't think she's getting for her entire career. I think that she is. This shows that she's an actor. Mm-hmm. Instead of popcorn actor like she was called. I just think that it's good. To me, it's one of those things where her and Mikey Madison are the two that I think are the front runners. Mm-hmm. And I think Mikey Madison is so young that they would say, no, Demi Moore, she's been around. We'll give it to her. And I think, the Academy voters know Demi Moore, probably personally, a lot of them.
Right. Well, she's Academy Award member herself.
Yeah. So I'm assuming that will give her a little bit of an advantage. Cynthia Erivo, I think, is very good, but I think she'll probably get another one next year for Wicked for Good. So, I think Demi Moore is going to get it, and I'm just going to keep that energy going. I really, really, really was super surprised that Margaret Qualley didn't get it and Monica Barbaro did, even though I think she was great in A Complete Unknown. The only thing I really liked about that movie. But I think that spot should have gone to Margaret Qualley.
It was shocking to see just how much the Academy loved a Complete Unknown. I guess I shouldn't be that surprised how much, because I mean it is one of the most simple crowd pleasing ideas possible. It's one of those movies that's easy to like, and you can find a wide variety of people who like it. So I guess that does make sense.
Everybody who loves it is 70 years old. In my day to day, everybody who I've talked to who love that movie is in their mid to late 60s to about 75.
Yeah. So many of the Academy Award winners, they grew up thinking, hey, that Dylan kid's going to be something.
Yeah.
And they're proven right,
Well, something you talked about last week was you did not think that Coralie Fargate was going to get nominated for The Substance.
I was concerned.
She did.
It's, they've not got a good history with nominating female directors. So
yeah,
it does make sense. Emilia Perez, I guess I don't know what happened, how we've arrived where we've arrived. I don't know. Um, I don't know. I've not gone back to try and watch the movie again, but I spend more time with it, and it's becoming more and more Green Book every day. Now, but of course, I hated Green Book from day one, but not this one, so it's not that. But in terms of just how much people dislike it now,
yeah.
And I do like it as kind of a thumb in the eye to the current administration. The fact that there is a trans woman nominated for Best Actress has got to. I know it annoys them, so that's good. But at the same time, is it the best? Is it the best representation? I'm not sure. And Jacques Audiard, especially getting nominated for Best Direction, just seems weird.
Yeah.
Just given his public statements, people are holding Brady Corbet up for ridicule because he used AI for like 90 seconds of covering dialogue in The Brutalist. They used it for like covering the Polish dialogue for like 90 seconds, and people are like, oh, that's a major party foul. But fucking Jacques Audiard doesn't know anything about Mexico and says so, even though his movie is set in Mexico. And people are like, this guy's genius.
Oh, yeah, the Brady Corbet thing, I think he's got probably the best shot because, the Brutalist is exactly it was made for the Academy Awards. It was just I saw it yesterday and we'll talk about it later, but it was made to be nominated. And I don't say that it's not necessarily a dig. But I think that, that's the kind of movie that the Academy just like spooges all over. So it doesn't surprise me that he was nominated for director.
No, it shouldn't be surprising. It's a great movie with incredible direction. It totally makes sense. The Brutalist is there. I don't understand James Mangold and I certainly have. I'm certainly having a weird time kind of figuring out how I feel about Jacques Audiard.
Yeah, between him and James Mangold, I just like we talked about A Complete Unknown several times, and it was fine. It was just fine. We're going to talk about a biopic later that is so much better than fine. That everyone I watch after that, after seeing that again, is lesser. And I don't know if it's because I'm not a Dylan fan or what, but it's just, I don't understand how it got director, or best picture or director for that matter, because it was not very inspired.
Mm-hmm.
It was very kind of HBO movie to me. Yeah. So I don't understand the hype or the.
I can appreciate the work that Timothée Chalamet did as well, but at the same time, I mean, is it acting or is it mimicry? Like, is it?
Yeah.
Whereas Hugh Grant in Heretic is kind of a full body performance. That is pure acting on his part. I think for me that's a better performance. Again, I don't hate what Chalamet did. I think he did great. He did a great job. But in terms of the performances, I just think it's better. It's a better performance.
Yeah,
more complex and more difficult idea to bring across than what he's doing with Dylan.
100%. I could have seen either him or Sebastian Stan in The Apprentice. Either one of those could have gone to, God, you just said his name. I was just blanked out. Hugh Grant. Yeah. Either one could have gone. He was so good in that movie, and that movie was just, such a good movie overall.
Mm-hmm.
I knew it would get shut out, but it's disappointing.
Is The Apprentice a protest vote to the election? Is that what that is?
I don't know so much if it is. Sebastian Stan was really good in it. And it's not, I had to explain to somebody the other day, we were talking about some of the bullshit that's going on in America right now. And they're like, I don't get it. Why, why is he like this? And I said, well, one thing, and I said, if you see The Apprentice, it goes back to what everybody has said about him in the past several years. All he ever wanted was to be accepted by super rich people and famous people. And because of his repellent personality, and I'm talking going back 40, 50 years, he has always been very repellent to most people who are not who are generationally wealthy, as opposed to nouveau riche, which is kind of how he always came across in the 80s. Mm-hmm. So they, that he plays that side of it is really, I don't know if it's telling that he got nominated for that over a different man, mm-hmm. which, I don't know if that says anything about a protest vote for the country or for Hollywood or Hollyweird, whatever. But it is also telling that Jeremy Strong got nominated as well.
Well, the Jeremy Strong thing, though, I think there's an element that's always wanted to honor him. I think there's an element that wanted to steal him away from TV after what he did with what he did on HBO. And yeah. I think there's a lot of people who still admire that level of they assume that level of staying in character all the time is good acting.
Well, seen enough Daniel Day-Lewis movies to disabuse me of that. Sorry.
I don't think The Apprentice is a bad movie. It didn't stick with me, and I thought it could have gone a little bit harder.
Yeah.
That's just me. That's the Trump hater in me, though, as well. I'll admit that, but I don't think there was. I thought it was a little thin overall, and I didn't find Jeremy Strong's performance that interesting. It seems like, whereas, like, again, Hugh Grant is delivering a performance as an actor, like where he melts into the character. You can see Jeremy Strong acting, mm-hmm. And I don't know. It's like, remember that character that John Lovitz used to play on SNL, the actor?
Acting, yeah.
Yes, capital. I am an actor. That is Jeremy Strong. Yeah. That's all those guys. And there's so many people in Hollywood who still think that we've got to show everyone what acting is, and he's showing people what acting is, and it's like, no, wrong.
Yeah, show your work. You got to make sure you're showing your work.
Don't show me your work. Win me over. To tell me a story. Yeah. Act like Hugh Grant. Like, that's totally not him. He's nothing like this guy. He's completely.
Well,
I don't
know. One of my favorite things about the Hugh Grant performance was that he did it. And behind his eyes, he had that little glint of his aw shucks glint. Mm-hmm. And it made what he was doing come across even better. So, yeah, I'm really disappointed that he did not get nominated for Best Actor.
That's the one I keep coming back to. Obviously, there are other snubs like I don't know. You probably haven't seen it yet, but Hard Truths. Marianne Jean-Baptiste not getting nominated for Best Actress is a real. It's just a highway robbery because she's just incredible in that film. And I'm nothing against Fernanda Torres. I think she was good as well. And I'm still here, and I'm glad to see an international feature getting that kind of attention. But I could take her or even, and I hate saying it, Carlos Sofia Gascon. I could take either of them out in favor of Marianne Jean-Baptiste because she's just that incredible in that film.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nothing against those performances, or even Cynthia Erivo, nothing against those performances, but there's like 3 performances in the last year in the leading actress category that were just far and away better than everybody else. And to me, it's Mikey Madison and it's Marianne Jean-Baptiste.
Mm-hmm. When you get to, I really was surprised that Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo were nominated this year, and not because they didn't put in the work and do great performances, but just for the fact that it's part one of a movie, which is really a longer, a longer movie. So I was surprised by them. I was surprised by Monica Barbaro, and I think that again that has more to do with the age of the Academy than anything else. Felicity Jones was really good. I think she deserved it. Isabella Rossellini, what she did with what she was given, as far as the just kind of being in the background and not having, only having a couple really juicy scenes to play. I think she did with them what I think hers was very earned, I thought. Zoe Saldana too. She was my favorite part of that movie.
Yeah.
For Amelia Perez, because it was so different for her. So,
and I gotta say, I mean, the directing category is also just kind of shocking to look there and not see Denis Villeneuve for Dune Part 2. Like, that is just kind of mind blowing to think that they chose a complete unknown over that. Where, come on, man, really? Like, again, James Mangold, solid director. It's a very commercial piece of work. Dune Part 2 is also a commercial piece of work, but it's also a much more successful commercial piece of work, and it's a much more vast and expansive commercial piece of work. It's a deeply artistic piece of work on top of that. I just think, I don't know, I think Villeneuve was far and away doing more, quite obviously. And I know that doesn't, I said that doing more as an actor is probably not my favorite thing, but doing more as a director and doing it that well feels like a better thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Part 2 got kind of ripped off, and John M. Chu not getting nominated for Wicked, even though every other part of that movie getting nominated, really a thumb in that guy's eye. Like, that's a real middle for him. Like, you're responsible for 10 nominations. You're responsible for none of this.
I feel like if they could have gotten that into documentary short, they would have. It has so many nominations.
Like, make it make sense. How does a movie get 10 nominations and the director isn't one of them?
Yeah. I don't know. I a lot of people who should have been nominated weren't, as always. And there are, a couple that were just baffling, like all the complete unknown stuff. So,
yeah, that's pretty much the Oscars.
I'm glad, though. Visual effects. I'm glad to see Better Man got something.
Yeah, it deserved better.
Yeah. So,
and the Challengers score not getting nominated. What the fuck? Did nobody watch that movie? Oh my god.
Yeah,
that's incredible.
Well, yeah. So I mean, I expected that. I expected Zendaya. I expected, a lot of it, and nothing. So
yeah, I blame the studio on that one. I think they just didn't do enough. I think they let that one fall out of attention far too early. They needed to bring it back and get it in front of people again, and they didn't do it.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about other movies, new movies in theaters this weekend. We're going to start with The Presence, and we'll circle back around to its director later. But Presence, starring directed by Steven Soderbergh and starring the likes of Lucy Liu, among others, tells the story of a ghost from the perspective of a ghost. We enter this home before anybody's moved in. A family is going to move in, and this ghost is going to be there watching over them, kind of observing their lives. And we're in that ghost's perspective for the entire movie, floating around this house, observing everything that happens, influencing some things in ways that they can. And I just was riveted, Jeff. I was riveted by this movie. I was so absorbed in the style and in the idea. And then it's all building towards this ending that was surprising and exciting and sad and just absolutely kind of brilliant overall. Steven Soderbergh is so talented, and he's been working on this camera work for so many years. He's been working on this style since the Ocean's movies, trying to find a way to make his camera as fluid as possible, to make this camera float as it does. And he nailed it. He's perfected it. It's arrived at the apex of what he wanted it to be, seemingly, because this camera is so perfect. It's just the movement is just, it's so light and airy, and I was blown away by just the technicality of that. The editing is so seamless. It feels like he's never editing at all. It just feels like it's just moving constantly, which is brilliant. And then, of course, these performances are phenomenal. I mean, just what a great group of actors.
Yeah, agreed. It took me a minute to figure out that we were only getting the perspective of the presence, so to speak. But once you get into that, that's really, it's very different, but it's really, I think it's the best way to tell a story like this. Because we don't know everything that, happens just in general with the family, like where they're coming from. But I love the way they dropped everything in, why they had to move into this house, and all of the backstory that we get with Chloe. I think having the ghost be the one that shows us all that is kind of brilliant, and it's kind of not something you would expect going into a movie. So
it's it could so easily be written off as an exercise in style, like just like a gimmick. Mm-hmm. You're putting the camera in the perspective of the ghost the entire movie. It could play like a gimmick, but it never does. It never feels inorganic. It feels like we're floating around as this ghost and watching from his perspective the entire time, and the things that the ghost is choosing to show us, which are specific choices by this ghost, especially once we know who it is and why this ghost is choosing what they're looking at. Just deepens it. It takes it so much further into it, and there's a little bit of rules, but nobody stops to tell you what the rules are. And
you just have to figure it all out by yourself.
Yeah, you're at the mercy of, in the same way that the ghost is kind of at the mercy of whatever the rules may be. The family dynamic is fascinating. Lucy Liu is I don't know if she's a lawyer or a businesswoman, but she's kind of done some shady shit to get them into this house, and specifically away from the house that they were in. And she's got kind of a drinking problem on top of that, but you don't see any focus on that. None of that. That stuff is happening. It's layered in there and kind of maybe led to believe that maybe that has a role to play here, but ultimately it's just kind of the setup. Then you've got the Chris Sullivan as the dad is just this big warm bear hug of a guy who's just such a sweetheart. And when you see his motivations and why he is the way he is, and the fact that he's not as helpless or uninvolved or uninformed as we thought he was, I thought that was a couple of really great reveals about what he actually knew about what his wife was up to. It was just phenomenal stuff. And then, of course, you've got this young actress, Callina Liang, who is the center of the film. She's right at the heart of it. They've moved there to help her brother, mostly so he can be in a nicer school, but also to get her away from this tragedy that happened where a friend of hers had died and another person that she was at least acquainted with has died in a similar fashion. Again, just he layers in this story brilliantly. You're never left with like a ream of expository dialogue, and you're constantly kind of on the edge of something. You're constantly on the edge of finding out what happens, and the movie doesn't. The movie edges you a little bit, but it doesn't hold back, really. I appreciated that.
And so a couple of things that got me. The font of the font that they use on screen is the same as Poltergeist, which I thought was a nice touch. Um, there is a scene with a psychic that she made a comment, and when she made that comment, I knew how it was going to end. I knew what was. I shouldn't say exactly, but I did know. I did know something as soon as she said that. I was like, "Oh, I wish I didn't know that." But I was surprised by like how it ultimately ended. I don't want to spoil it for anybody because I want people to.
I love that scene though. That the scene with the psychic, and I actually thought I'm pretty sure I'm thinking of the same line that you are. That I thought it was perfectly intriguing. Like it's this such a quick little piece of dialogue. At the same time, it plants a seed that is going to pay off later, and it's a seed that needs to be planted, and it's planted so perfectly. I thought.
Yeah. And I mean, there was a surprise, but because I thought it was something else based on what she said, but there was a slight surprise in it. But I still I like that. Oh, I watched enough of these kind of movies and I've read enough of these kind of books that means something. I don't know exactly what it means, and I was not exactly right, but I liked that it sets that up. So
smart.
Yeah,
I think this movie is incredibly smart, but again, also on a technical level, it is it's just marvelous. I mean, just every aspect from the house is a great star of this movie. The architecture of it is incredibly well used. You have a strong sense of where everything is, and that can be hard. A movie like this where you're reliant so much on your sets. You can kind of lose people in the geography of it, and a lot of directors will use that as a way of tricking the audience. I think I love Leigh Whannell and I love Wolfman. I think at times he did kind of fudge the architecture of that home to try and build tension.
Yeah.
This movie doesn't do that. You know where everything is, and it's very specific about making sure you understand the layout of the home and what role that's playing and where the ghost is going and why they're there.
Well, I mean, that's the very first part of it is laying out the architecture. So you see where the camera is going to go and where everything is. And you expect, it's like you're looking at the house, like a realtor is showing you the house.
Mm-hmm.
And that sets it up so perfectly. And you kind of know where everybody's going to have to go for what they're going to have to do. Yeah, that was pretty brilliant.
It's it's funny. It's almost like I can't remember who it was that said it. I think it was one of the critics on Breakfast All Day, Alonzo Duraldi's YouTube show, with another critic I can't remember her name. I apologize. But they said something about how about this movie, comparing it to Here and the stationary camera, and how this is kind of the perfect sort of deconstruction of that stupid idea. Like, actually, your camera is super important. Actually, you need to move that around a little bit.
And at the end, that's what I thought of. That was the first thing I thought of when they went out the door. I was like, wait a minute.
This movie's amazing. I do hope it sticks around in people's minds for an entire year. The movies actually came out last year at Sundance, and then they held it until this year. I guess Neon had a lot of stuff that they're running with. Like, they probably don't want anything competing with, what they've got right this year. But last year,
Neon had some of the best movies of the year last year.
Neon is crushing it to the point, like, I think they're neck and neck with A24 at this point.
Oh yeah,
I don't think that's a
horror right now.
Yeah. This is an incredible movie, and Steven Soderbergh is just an extraordinary director.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he has consistently shown that he's kind of like a modern master.
Yeah.
So
there really isn't anything he can't do, and he rarely will make a bad movie. I mean, Uh, Rarely. Like I think kind of the Ocean's movies kind of dragged on a little bit. I thought Che was a little bit too much for any director. The two Che movies that he made, but
Yeah.
but still, I mean, you look at his stuff. Like I just wrote about his movie Bubble, which he made like 20 years ago. Uh, it's just this brilliant murder mystery with the twist of it being no actors involved. It's all amateurs from this one small town in Ohio, and he manages to turn them all into brilliant actors that you can't take your eyes off of. Then in the Girlfriend Experience, Sasha Grey, is a adult film star, but she feels like an actual real life movie star while you're watching it. Like it was like I think that's the proto performance of what Mikey Madison does in Honora. Honestly, like it's that level of great that didn't get its due simply because of the bias that there continues to be against people who've been in adult films. She deserves so much more because she's incredible in that movie. But part of what makes her incredible is Steven Soderbergh helping to bring that performance out of her. And similarly here, he's got Callina Liang and Eddie Medei, who are not actors who've been doing very much, working with veterans like Lucy Liu and Chris Sullivan. And I think, again, working with Soderbergh, just he helps his actors to be better. I think he relies on. I think he's got such a strong technical eye. He doesn't try to over direct his actors. He lets them find the characters and brings that out of them.
Yeah. He just. There's something about. I want to say he's an actor's director, is the term, but I think he's an actor's director. He's a cinematographer. He's an editor's director. He's so granularly involved in stuff that I think if he kind of goes even above for me being an auteur. Because he's got such a distinctive voice, even if he's doing something that's completely different than what he's, usually doing.
Yeah, I mean, just the best illustration of that is the fact that in 2000 he directed Traffic and Aaron Brockovich. The same director did those. Yeah. That's amazing. Yeah. That's incredible. Those are two different skill sets happening in front of you, and it's amazing to see one guy do that. All right, let's talk about another great director in Brady Corbet, the movie The Brutalist, with 10 Oscar nominations of its own, second only to Emilia Perez, tied with Wicked. Tells the story of Laszlo Toth, a Hungarian-Jewish architect, Holocaust survivor who comes to America in hopes of bringing his family with him. Eventually, he has to leave his wife, played by Felicity Jones, and another family member back there. While he establishes himself in America, he's going to go live with his cousin for a time and work in his furniture store. But of course, this is well beneath his talent because he's actually was a very famous architect back in Hungary. He arrives in America and he begins to build himself up, and he meets a character played by Guy Pearce, who is a very rich man, a very powerful man. He's got all the resources in the world. And after initially kind of not meeting each other the best possible way, Van Buren, Guy Pearce's character, comes around to him. He becomes his benefactor, hires him to build this incredible monument to his brilliance, and Toth sort of makes it his own in a very, very unique way. That is kind of the story of this movie. I was not looking forward to this when I first heard about it, especially the length, 3.5 hours, 3 hours and 30 minutes with a stop in the middle of an intermission. I also, Adrien Brody hasn't been this good in a very long time. So I've been very skeptical of his work for a while. Guy Pearce has been wandering in the weeds of direct to Amazon movies for a while now. I think the last time I saw him, he was fighting a vampire or something in some small town movie. Like it's not been good for him. And I think he said something about he turned down a Christopher Nolan movie like 20 years ago, and was after that, it was like it was hard for him to find, the kind of work he was getting at that time. I don't know if there was a conspiracy or anything, but I do see where he was taking roles that seem to be, especially after this, beneath his talent. The dynamic between Toth and Van Buren is, this fascinating dichotomy of, of this Jewish emigre who is incredibly talented. He's this incredibly talented artist and thinker who's got, amazing abilities he's got like a visionary ability to create things. And then you have this man whose main thing is that he has power and money, and that's all it. And then he doesn't have, the visionary quality that Toth has. And that the two of them are eventually going to have to butt heads simply because of that, because one man is desperate to prove, that he can buy anything, that he can exert his power over anything in any way he wants. And the other one, he's just a visionary who has an idea and then turns that idea into something that really is amazing and impactful.
Yeah, when you said that you'd seen this a few weeks ago, I was put off by the length of it. I do like the brutalist style of architecture and, the Bauhaus movement and its minimalism. But I was just kind of like, I don't know if I want to sit through almost 4 hours of a movie about an architect. But I was like, all right, well, I'm going to do it on Monday so that I can have Tuesday off, which is my day off. And then if I don't like it, then I don't feel like I, wasted my whole day off, which I did anyway. I liked it. I did not love it. And I think, there's a couple reasons why that it kept me from loving it the way that so many people seem to. One is the length. I thought it was a little self-indulgent with the length. Quite a few moments I felt were just way too indulgent. And that's my main thing. There are a couple other things that are kind of just too telegraphed for me. The fact that Felicity Jones is cagey in her letters, and he doesn't. You get the fact you get that he's having kind of more fun without her, even though he misses her. And when she comes and he sees she's in a wheelchair and that has the disappointment, and then they play that note like 3 or 4 times before he doesn't seem like he's disappointed in her. I thought, like you could have cut those scenes in half. Raffi Cassidy looks so much like what's this, Daniel Radcliffe, that it was very distracting. When she first comes on screen, I'm like, that's not Daniel Radcliffe in drag, is it? It really I was a lot. I thought that it was a little on the nose, but overall it was a really good. It seemed like it was a biopic almost about somebody who was real. That's how much they kind of imbued each character with their own personality apart from Adrien Brody. Everybody was their own person as opposed to just being in the service of his character, which happens a lot in, biopics like A Complete Unknown. And I really thought that each person had their own agency in the movie, which doesn't always happen in a movie about somebody as bigger than life as Toth was.
Yeah, it's
So
millions of people after seeing this movie went home and Googled Laszlo Toth to see. I wanted to meet the guy who this is based on.
yeah.
I was shocked mostly by how I didn't feel the length. Honestly, I really it did not. I did not tire of it. I was kind of absorbed in it. A lot of that has to do with just how it looks. The look of the film is incredible. The cinematography is gorgeous. The editing is kind of brilliant. Just the way the film moves so fluidly through this lengthy period of time. It feels like when a movie's 3.5 hours or over 3 hours, that oftentimes it's swimming against a tide, and you're going to get as tired as the movie does. And I never felt that about this movie, even though it's one of the longest movies we've seen in the last 10 years. I was just so wrapped up in like, where is this going? What are they doing with this? And when it finally hit me, kind of what I think they were doing here, it was so satisfying because my idea of it, and people can dismiss it if they want, but my idea of it was that, and especially it comes out in a scene late that is kind of a controversial scene between Van Buren and Toth when they're out of country going to look at Stone. There's a scene that happens, after that is a touch controversial. But I think what that scene is so key to how I see this movie. You have a man in Van Buren who envies this other man, Toth, even though Van Buren has everything that he could possibly want. He has all the power in the world. He has all the money in the world. He can build whatever he wants to build with whomever he wants to build it with. But he can never be a true visionary. He can never be an artist. He can never be a genius. He can never possess any of that. And it comes down to his desperate desire to try and be that, control that, take that over and own it for himself. And his ending, the way he comes to an end, is the simple proof that he could never have what Toth had. He can never be that guy. And it reminds me so much of the way some people on the right envy some people on the left the ability to, think in an emotional, artistic way, as opposed to a just mine, money, mine, power thing that they constantly do. And I thought this movie was a picture perfect distillation of that relationship. The idea of people who have money but no vision, and people who have vision but no money.
Yep. Yeah, that controversial part, I got it. I knew that was going to happen. Once they were, when they were walking, I was like, oh, I know what's going to happen now. And it did. And it was about power. I have the power. You don't, you might think you do, but you don't. I have the power. So the fact that happened when it happened was the perfect point of showing who has the power in the relationship. I was very surprised that was revealed by another character. Mm-hmm. And I did not like that it was left with what happened, what actually happened. So that really that kind of bugged me. I'm not gonna lie. That was one of the things that I was like, can we get a little bit of an explanation of this? So I don't know.
I thought the ending was perfect. I thought the ending was
the ending, but that one character's ending was not perfect.
Mm-hmm.
That to me was a little. I didn't appreciate the ambiguity after we'd gone through 3.5 hours. So, but that's just me being, too dumb to be a critic.
I was also rocked kind of by the other. There's this other sort of revelation, and we're talking around a little bit because this is such a great movie that people should go see. But the connection between what he's making and the Holocaust, the camps, I thought, wow, Whew. That was great.
Yeah.
That was quite something, and that, you know, that we didn't see that no one who was working with him didn't noticed it at all. That was kind of wow. Kind of just another reason why this movie, I find this movie so fascinating, and why I was so riveted by it was still 3.5 hours in, it's still finding a way to tell me something I didn't know it was telling me.
Yeah, yeah. And then it made sense.
Absolutely.
Like, wow. Okay.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is what for me, like, I know you've got some reservations about it. I completely understand and respect. I thought it was one of the best movies of the last year, and it's kind of grown in my mind since I saw it, and I'll be rooting for it to win Best Picture, because I know The Substance isn't going to win. I still know The Substance is the best movie of the last year.
Yeah.
But this was in my top 10 at the very least, so there's that.
Yeah, I'm not sure where this falls for me for the year. It seems like it might be a weird year for movies.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas last year was just like everything was so good last year. I like I said, I liked it. I didn't love it. There were a couple little nitpicks that I had that kept me from loving it. Mm-hmm. So,
oh, right. Let's circle back. Did you have any other movies that you saw, or
no? I skipped a certain
a certain number one movie at the box office.
Yeah, I don't support Holocaust deniers. Sorry.
Let's talk about let's return then to the world of Steven Soderbergh and to our classic. Then we'll talk about Erin Brockovich from the year 2000. 25 years ago, this movie came out, leading to Oscars across the board. It tells the story of a woman who is struggling for work. She decides to just give herself a job working for her lawyer, played by Albert Finney. She then uses this job at a law firm that propels her into this case where people are being poisoned, and through her charm and determination and grit, she uncovers a conspiracy that is killing people. That's the simplistic idea of this, but Soderbergh is doing so much more here that people probably don't talk about. It's easy to see, like, what's going on with it's easy to see Julia Roberts being Julia Roberts. It's easy to see that. And the story of Erin Brockovich has a conventional quality that's relatable. But what you're missing is the subtlety of what Soderbergh is doing in terms of filmmaking. I got an example of this in the first 2 minutes of this movie, which is simply a job interview for a job she's not going to get. She's interviewing with this doctor for a position that kind of vaguely resembles a nurse, but she's obviously not qualified to be a nurse. She doesn't have a certificate. But she's still applying for it. But the whole scene is an example of who she is. You know, her charm, her grit. You know, the way she figures there's nothing she can't do. Versus a world that sort of views her in a very specific way, that says she's just not qualified to do anything. Essentially, just kind of dismissing her out of hand. And the way Soderbergh layers in information in that 2-minute period, we learn that she's a single mom. We don't even know how many kids, but multiple kids. We learn, obviously we're learning from Julia just how charming and unique she is as a person, and how confident she is in her abilities. But also how kind of desperate she is, as well as kind of coming through in her nervous energy, and the way that Soderbergh captures that in shots that remain on her. While the doctor talks, we're still kind of staying on her. It's just this subtle way of reminding us, even though, yes, Julia Roberts is the star, we are remaining on her because this is the center of your movie right here. It's just so subtle and so brilliant. And in just 2 minutes, and then he ends on a piece of dialogue. In the middle of a piece of dialogue, this man is about to dismiss her and tell her, some polite thing about, we're not hiring right now, or you're not really qualified for this, but we'll give you a call if something happens, that kind of thing. He stops it right on the word look. And look is so important to everything that happens for the rest of the movie, because she's going to go looking into this case and she's going to look for the truth and she's going to look for the chromium and the evidence. And that's really like a thesis. That one word is a thesis statement on everything else you're going to see in this movie. And that's just brilliant filmmaking.
The word look, when somebody says look, that is all. Look, all of, that was something that Biden used to say a lot whenever he's like, look, I'm not gonna, and that, in the tone of him saying it, that it's going to inform how she just goes about life, because she's just so sick of hearing that word from probably especially men. So
it's the cuntiest of phrases, really.
It's like bless your heart, but cuntier.
Back to reality. Look.
Look. I want to say that I just given it all up, this is the perfect biopic. And possibly just it's a perfect movie to me. And it starts right there where you see the look on her face where she's trying to hold it together, and we've all been in that position where we want to get out of our situation so badly that we just talk all over and we don't even know what we're saying. We're just kind of trying to be positive and say it all and be all happy. And inside you're like, just give it to me. Just give it to me right now. And that sets up exactly who she is. The look on her face, that hopeful, but underneath, she's pretty cynical because of all the shit that's happened to her. So, yeah.
And, even though we're talking about Julia Roberts here, who at the time is one of the biggest stars in the world, one of the most well-known human beings in the world, the way that she brings this down in a way that is so relatable, the cleverness of Susanna Grant's script, where like the relationship that she develops with her coworkers at the law firm, like they're total bitches to her the entire time, and it makes sense on a number of different levels, but it also kind of humanizes her. That the world, unlike where when Julia Roberts walks into a room, everyone defers. No one defers to her in this world, and they look down upon her. In the world, and there's something just very subtle about making that choice to then give her this minor thing to overcome as she's overcoming these very, very big things. Just a great character choice.
The way she's wearing the neck brace, and the way she takes it off in the one scene, it's so informative of like everything that's happened to her. And it's that one moment she gets without the kids or her boss or the neighbor or whatever. It's just a one like split second where she gets to just take it off and relax, and then it's snatched out from under her. But that's always one of those things where she completely stops being Julia Roberts to me. And that's kind of, Julia Roberts is one of those people. She's a movie star. Everything like Tom Cruise. I never see him as anybody but Tom Cruise. I never see Julia Roberts as anybody but Julia Roberts, except in this movie a few times. But moments, not, she's always Julia Roberts to me. But that scene where she's taking that off, and the scene where she's with Mark Helgenberger and they're talking about the water and how it's contaminated with hexavalent chromium, and she sees the look of terror on Mark Helgenberger's face, and she's not Julia Roberts in that moment to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just
like in the staging of that scene, you come in and you set up the pool outside and the two kids playing in the pool outside, and you know why Julia is there.
yeah.
And Mark Helgenberger doesn't know why she's there. And once she realizes why she's there and what she's telling her, that terror is so real. It's
And Mark Helgenberger is this movie is absolutely filled with the best actors, the best character actors. Cherry Jones. I've seen her on Broadway. I was literally like 10 feet away from her for 2.5 hours. It was amazing. When Julia goes to see her to get her signature, and she's just like, you people are all the same. I really felt I really felt that she could have been anybody, in that same position. And we also all have been there where we go to, we think somebody's going to help and they don't. Mm-hmm. So we've gotten burned enough that, and Cherry Jones is just so like good at that. What's his face? Aaron Eckhart, playing a guy whose real name in real life was Jorge, but playing him as George. Mm-hmm. And just that, that kind of, all right, I'm here and everything's cool, and I don't have much to do except babysit. Anna Adela Barnes, she's my favorite office worker. Her could shut a Pharrell. Bite my ass, Krispy Kreme is one of the best lines. I used to say that all the time. Well, Adela Barnes just looking at her with, like putting her hand on her, or her chin on her hand, and just looking at her like, are you kidding me with this? Like there's TJ Thine, there's Albert Finney he is perfection in this movie. What's this? Tracy, oh God, it's killing me. What was it? Tracy Walter, who was in The Silence of the Lambs. He was always in a lot of Jonathan Demme movies, and he plays the guy who's creeping her out every time he goes to talk to her. Mm-hmm. And he's a good character actor. He doesn't do a lot in his movies. He's just kind of a presence. But he talking about his cousin who just died the day before, and he gets that look that, that like, I'm a masculine guy and I've got to keep it together, but in, behind the eyes you can see it. And it's just little things like that I think that Steven Soderbergh really brings out of people.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And it's no surprise to me that she won an Academy Award for work that she did in a Steven Soderbergh movie, because I think he brought something out of her that I don't think, she's an excellent actor, but he brought something out of her that was just a little different, and I think that's why she ended up winning Best Actor or Best Actress. So
yeah, and you can't underestimate as well that how well he structured this for her. To get around the Julia Roberts of it all, he structures the film in a way that allows her to find the character and make it real, and gives her moments to make it even more real. And that's just part of the talent of what Soderbergh does. And his partnership with Susanna Grant is obviously a big part of that. Their working relationship is tremendous, and the way he brings her screenplay to life. If I've got a problem with the movie, I don't particularly care for Aaron Eckhart. Especially his look just feels so I don't know. It didn't feel authentic to me. Him as a biker guy, it just seemed like a little bit stock of a look. So that kind of takes me out of it a little bit. I just don't buy Aaron Eckhart necessarily as that. But he's not bad in the movie. He certainly doesn't ruin anything, but it's just not great to me. But he does get a moment with her, and where he helps her and kind of gives her this moment. I think their relationship, where they're going back and forth and bantering for the first time that they are hooking up. There is a line in that is one of the most heartbreaking lines I think I've ever heard in a movie, where Julia Roberts looks at George and says, "Are you going to be something else? I'm going to have to survive."
Mm-hmm.
Like, wow, what a piece of writing to communicate an entire backstory in a single line. She has told you more about herself in one line than anything else in the movie. That's amazing.
Well, and the he's like, how am I supposed to prove to you that I'm not like all these other guys? And she just looks at him and she's just like, stay. And he leaves anyway, and I'm like, oh, what a douchebag. Yeah, I feel like after I saw the movie and after IMDb became a thing, this is a movie that I've watched a lot. Because something about the the soundtrack is so easy to fall asleep to that occasionally I'll just put it on. It's my sleep movie. I'll put it on. I'll set the sleep timer for 3 hours so that it goes off after the movie. And I'll just fall asleep to it because that score is so great. After reading about it, and I kind of wish that they had cast somebody and called him Jorge, instead of George, so that they could get Aaron Eckhart. Put George Lopez in and call him Jorge. I think that would have been hilarious. This is almost a perfect biopic for me. And it really comes down to the direction, and the overall the cast.
Yeah,
because everybody is almost perfect for their role.
And it's in many ways, it's in many ways a very conventional biopic, but he just shows that you can take the conventions of the biopic and just do them better, which is something I always talk about when it comes to familiar, genre movies, is that you don't necessarily have to get rid of all the familiar beats. You just need to do them better than they've been done. And Soderbergh, with his attention to detail and with the care that he takes in what he does, he's so astonishingly detailed about his work and getting exactly what he wants out of each scene. It just means that the level of care that he's taking is going to make it better, even if it is conventional and familiar.
Yeah. He just cared about the story enough that that made it like 10 times better than it would have been if, say, somebody like, I don't know, name a shitty director had done it. There's a lot of them out there.
Not going to drag James Mangold, but I think Mangold's a good director. He is, but he doesn't have what Soderbergh has. He doesn't elevate the material; he meets it. You know what I mean? He's got good material in a complete unknown, and he meets that material. He doesn't exceed it. Soderbergh has great material in Aaron Brockovich, and then he exceeds it.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm actually going to tomorrow drop a 1,200 word essay on just the first 2 minutes of this movie.
Because of course you are.
That's just who I am, Jeff. I like to tackle the big topics that the audience really likes to read about, and that's why I'm so successful.
Yes, that's such a Sean thing.
But that's why I wrote about a documentary about a gay man talking about his mom for 2 hours today, because that's just what the people want.
I don't even want that. I mean, I'm kidding. Just kidding. I can see where you could do that about the first 2 minutes.
I could do that with any Soderbergh movie, probably, because he's just that good. I mean, you go back to just oh God, even to the 90s, his work is just amazing. Like Sex, Lies, and Videotape. I mean, he's got some misses. I don't think Schizopolis was great, but so many of the things he's done are amazing. Traffic is amazing. It's a movie that should work for just from the sheer scope of it should not work, and he makes it work. The Ocean's movies are way better than they have any right to be, just because of his attention to detail.
Yeah, even the worst Ocean's movie is better than 50% of the movies out there.
That's no joke. No joke. That's absolute fact. It's just he knows how to make he knows how to make any movie like a pleasing blockbuster, a great biopic, a ghost movie. There's just a murder mystery. He can do anything. This guy, he's incredible. He's and yet somehow until today, and especially on this show, I think he's been underrated. We always talk about Ari Aster. We talk about a lot of directors, Villeneuve, but rarely do we get a chance to talk about Soderbergh. Part of which is he took some time off from directing while we were doing the show, but he's still there's still just not enough praise for this guy.
Agreed.
All right, Jeff. Next week we're looking forward to Companion as the big movie of the week, and I think Will Ferrell and Reese Witherspoon have what looks like a dreadful comedy on Amazon. I hope it's good. I've not seen it. I'm not saying it's dreadful. I'm saying the premise of it is a sitcom premise that they did, I think, on an episode of How I Met Your Mother. So they're going to have to overcome that. But that's on Amazon this weekend. Hopefully we'll have other things to talk about. We'll need a classic, obviously, and we'll see. But what do you think? I'm really looking forward to Companion. I love what they've put out there about it. I hope they haven't put too much of it out there. I think everybody's familiar with what the central twist of it is, which did sort of ruin the movie Abigail last year. So hopefully hopefully that hasn't happened here.
I have only read a brief synopsis, and that's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to watch any of the trailers before I see it. Just for the simple fact is that I don't want stuff to get spoiled for me.
Yeah. Try to avoid it. They're like, because I'm wondering what the experience will be like for you versus me. When I like, there's a line in the trailer, and I won't say it, but because I think it does tell you everything. I hope it doesn't tell you everything, but it feels like it tells you everything. It's a great line. It's a very intriguing line, and I think that they wanted it in the trailer because it's so intriguing. At the same time, it is such a revealing line of what they're doing. It's like, not sure if you wanted to do that. It's going to be an Abigail.
No.
Please don't be Abigail. Whatever you do, do not be Abigail.
Yeah. So I'll see that as soon as I can on Friday or Saturday, so that I don't get spoiled.
It looks really good though. Like, I don't know. Just aspects of it look very, very cool.
I'm a little. I remember a movie called Hell of a Summer from a couple years ago. There was a trailer for it, and then I just saw the trailer again attached to Presents on Saturday or Sunday, and I was like, "Wait a minute, didn't that? Why does that sound familiar?" And then apparently it was made in 2023. Have you seen the trailer for that?
Doesn't sound familiar.
It's Fred Hecklinger plays a guy who goes to summer camp, and he loves it so much that he becomes has that trailer been out for a couple years and they're just not releasing it?
I think Fred's just been in so many things that it feels like you may have seen it. Because he was everywhere for the last 12 months or so.
Yeah. I don't know. Just so apparently that's coming out this year. So I'm kind of looking forward to that. It's the directorial debut of Finn Wolfhard.
Interesting.
So It's like a takeoff on the Friday the 13th movie kind of thing. So we'll have a classic.
All right. And on the 1995 podcast later this week, Amy and I are talking about the movie Miami Rhapsody, starring Sarah Jessica Parker and Antonio Banderas. My review of that is already up if you want to check that out. Thanks, Jeff.
Thanks a lot. Have a good one.